I'll start with this. So this is very, very exciting to be here. I like to start these kinds of conversations really just to understand how well people might know Khan Academy. I'm curious, how many of you before this conference knew of Khan Academy? At least a little bit. Oh, okay. How many of you have used Khan Academy, either yourself or with your children? And how many of you before the conference had no idea of what Khan Academy is? Okay, good. That's why we're here. So as was introduced, Khan Academy, we are a not-for-profit with a mission of providing a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And I'll talk a lot more about what that mission means. But for those of you who have used Khan Academy, a lot of people associate us with this collection of videos on math and science and other topics. And you'll see that we're much more than that. But to get everyone on the same page, I'll start showing you what at least some of the Khan Academy videos look like. And sound. There should be sound.
I'm told the humidity makes it feel hotter. Why is this?
Excellent question, LeBron.
And you can just see the pleasure he had.
Can you determine which light bulb is being switched?
Things actually can interbreed, although for these two in particular, it seems like the mechanics would get kind of difficult.
And I can keep playing around with these numbers and see what kind of colors I can come up with.
If this does not blow your mind, then you have no emotion.
I'm glad you enjoyed Euler's identity. As I mentioned, it's much more than just videos. A student, and once again, all of this is free, not for profit, no commercials, no ads. Student can go select their level, whatever grade level they want, and then they can learn their material at their own pace, get as much practice as they need, get as much feedback as they need. Some of your children might even be using this. Carlos Rodriguez Pastura mentioned yesterday at Innova schools, this is actually the type of software they use for all the students to learn at their own pace. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So Khan Academy today it reaches almost everywhere in the world, 190 countries, almost 2 million teachers are using Khan Academy in some way in their classrooms, over 42 million registered students. And as exciting as those numbers are and where they could go, it's fun to talk about how all of this started, because it had very humble beginnings. About 12 years ago, I had a cousin, Nadia, who was having trouble in mathematics. She was visiting me. I was living in Boston at the time, and when I found that out, I offered to tutor her. So when she went back to New Orleans, that's where I was born and raised, we got on the phone every day, and we on computer, instant messenger, and I started to help her through her middle school mathematics. And slowly but surely, she got caught up with her class. She even got a little ahead of her class. Her school saw that she had improved, and they put her into a more advanced math class. And so I was pretty excited about that. I started tutoring her younger cousins. And then over the next, I would say about a year, word gets around my family that free tutoring is happening. And so about a year later, I found myself tutoring about 10 or 15 cousins every day after work. And this wasn't my job. My day job, I was an analyst at a hedge fund. And you know, it was a very exciting project for me. It was a way of connecting with my family member, a way of helping them. But it was becoming difficult. It was what I could do with Nadia. It was very hard to do with 15 cousins. We would get on a conference call, and I would try to help them. And so I was working on software for them so that they can get practice. I saw that all of my cousins had gaps in their knowledge. And I was showing this software to a friend of mine. His name is Zuli Ramzan. I have to give him credit. And he says, well, this is very cool, Sal, but how are you scaling your actual lessons with your cousins? And I said, no, I'm not. It's very difficult to do with 15 what I was doing before with Nadia. And he said, well, why don't you record some of your lessons as videos and upload them onto YouTube? And I said, no. YouTube is for cats playing piano. It is not for serious mathematics. But I went home that weekend. I got over the idea that it was not my idea. And I decided to give it a shot. And, you know, those first videos that I uploaded, and they're still up there, were just, you know, adding fractions with unlike denominators, basic algebra, unit conversion, things that I saw a lot of my cousins were having difficulty with. And I started saying, hey, why don't you watch this ahead of time, and then we can discuss it on the phone. And after a month, I asked them for feedback, and they famously said they liked me better on YouTube than in person. And at first that seems counterintuitive until you really put yourself in the position of a learner, and we've all been there. If you're in an algebra class and you're having trouble with, say, dividing decimals, you're embarrassed. You don't want to raise your hand and tell your algebra teacher or your cousin that you don't know how to divide decimals, but now with the YouTube, there's no judgment. If you're having a problem at midnight, you don't have to bother anyone else. You can go online. If you're a college student and you're having trouble with algebra, you don't have to feel embarrassed. You can go whenever you need it. So I took it as positive feedback, and I kept making more and more and more content for them in algebra, physics, calculus, chemistry. And soon I started to realize that people who were not my cousins were watching. And at first I just started to see the view count go up slowly, but every month it was growing maybe 30, 40, 50%. And then, I started getting comments. Some of those early comments were just simple thank yous. Even that I thought was a pretty big deal. I don't know how much time you spend on YouTube. Most of the comments are not thank you. But then the comments got more intense. People started writing, this was the reason why they passed their algebra exam. This is the reason why they didn't drop out of high school. I got a letter in the early days from a mother saying that both of her sons had a learning disability, and these videos were the only way that they were able to keep up with their class. And because of that, her and her entire family were praying for my entire family. And you got to imagine how strange that felt for me on some level. My day job, I was an analyst at a hedge fund. I was not used to people praying for me. At least in that way. So I kept going. You fast forward now about 2-3 years, 2009. There was about 40, 50,000 people who were using the videos and the software that I had written for my cousins on a monthly basis. And it was, even though this started as a hobby, this is where all of my attention was going. And so I sat down with my wife. We had some savings. Our first child had just been born. Our savings were essentially to buy a down payment on a house. But we both felt like this is something special is happening here. And I said, surely, I already set it up as a not-for-profit, as an NGO. Surely someone will see the social return on investment here, and we could maybe get philanthropic donations. And so I quit my day job at the hedge fund, and I decided to do this full-time. And I think anytime you do anything entrepreneurial, I know there's many entrepreneurs here in the audience, whether it is for-profit or not-for-profit, you almost have to start with that delusional optimism to quit your job and to take the plunge. And then as soon as you do that, you realize that it's a little harder than you thought. I remember I started having a lot of conversations with people, a lot of foundations, philanthropists, and they would say, this is very nice what you're doing, but it's not what we fund, or our budget's already allocated. And so you can imagine, about 9 months into that, it was very stressful for me. As I mentioned, our first child had just been born. Our down payment on the house was shrinking by about $5,000 every month. Frankly, it was the most stressful time in my life. I'd wake up in the middle of the night wondering what I had done, not just to me, but to my family. I had a good job before, and I had quit to make YouTube videos. And right around that time, I was getting donations from people, and it was amounting to a few $100s a month. All of a sudden, a $10,000 donation came in. I see who it is. Her name is Ann Doerr, and she was local. By this point, we lived in Northern California. And I immediately emailed her, and I said, thank you so much for this incredibly generous donation. This is the largest donation that Khan Academy has ever received. If we were a physical school, you would now have a building named after you. And Anne immediately responded back and says, oh, well, I live nearby. I would love to meet and learn more about what you're doing. And so we met 2 or 3 days later at an Indian restaurant over lunch, and Anne asks me, so what's your vision? And I said, well, in the U.S., when you fill out the paperwork to be a nonprofit, there's a part of the form that says mission, and they give you about 1.5 lines, and I filled out a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And Anne said, that's ambitious. How do you see yourself doing that? And I told her, I said, it's a mission. I don't think I'm going to be able to check it off this weekend and then move on to healthcare. But I showed her the view count of how many people were using it, how it was growing exponentially. I showed her the software that I was making. I said, look, it's not just about videos. It's about interactive software. It's about tools for teachers. It's not just about English. My dream is to be able to make this available in every language on the planet. And Anne says, you've made a surprising amount of progress. I only have one question. how are you supporting yourself? And I said, in as proud of a way as possible, I'm not. And Anne kind of processes that a little bit, and we part ways. 10 minutes later, I'm driving into my driveway, and I get a text message from Anne. And it says, you really need to be supporting yourself. I've just wired you $100,000. So that was a good day. That was a little bit. And you know, frankly, that was the beginning of crazier and crazier events, good, positive events for Khan Academy. A month later, I was running a summer camp for kids, middle school students. And I was doing it because I don't think this is about replacing classrooms. I think it's about enhancing classrooms. If students can get lectures and if they can get practice at their own time and pace, then the classroom can be a place for dialogue, a place for simulations. So I was in the middle of a simulation with some middle school students when all of a sudden I start getting text messages from Anne, which you can imagine I now take very seriously. And there were 6 or 7 of them, and it was hard to see what order they came in, but they read, this is Anne texting, I'm in Aspen, Colorado at the Aspen Ideas Festival. I'm in the main pavilion watching Bill Gates talking about Khan Academy. So I didn't know what to make of this, so I immediately boot the nearest 7th grader off of a computer, and I start looking for some evidence of this thing that Anne is talking about. And after searching for about 5 minutes, I actually found this video.
There's a new website that I've just been using with my kids recently called Khan Academy, K-H-A-N. Just one guy doing some unbelievable 15-minute tutorials. My favorite vignette is that guy, Salman Khan. He was a hedge fund guy making lots of money, and he quit to do these little web videos. And so we have moved, I'd say, about 160 IQ points from the hedge fund category into the teaching many people in a leveraged way category. So, you know, that was a good day, the day that his wife let him quit his job.
So you could imagine what was going on in my head. I felt like I was dreaming. I actually became a little bit nervous. I was thinking those videos were for Nadia, not Bill Gates. I went home. I still remember that night at dinner. I was sitting with my wife, and I told her about this, and I was like, "What do I do now? You know, do I call him? I'm assuming he's not listed." And they left me in that state for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I'm in my walk-in closet, which was the headquarters of Khan Academy at the time, about to record a video, and all of a sudden my cell phone rings. I see it's a Seattle number. I answer it. Hello? This is Larry Cohen. I'm Bill Gates' chief of staff. You might have heard that Bill's a fan. Yeah, I've heard that. If you're free over the next few weeks, Bill and I would love to fly you up to Seattle and learn more about what you're doing, maybe ways we can support your work. And I was looking at my calendar for the month. It's completely blank. So I said, you know, I have to cut my nails, do some laundry, but I think I can meet Bill Gates. So we had that meeting, and it was very similar to the meeting with Anne. I explained what I would want to do. I explained that I'd want to create tools for teachers, translate into the language of the world. They seemed very excited. Around the same time, it turns out people at Google, many of the executives were using Khan Academy with their kids. I had no idea. They asked the same question. And so all of a sudden it came together, and from 4 months of being worried about how am I going to support my family to 4 months later in fall of 2010, we had our first significant support to get an office space, to start hiring people, to really build out our organization to fulfill this mission. And what we immediately started really investing in is the software. We kept making videos, and we keep making videos, but we really think learning should be an interactive process. And what I'm showing you right here, we call our knowledge map, which used to be a way to navigate the site, but it's no longer, but I like to show it because it shows how we think about a progression through mathematics. If you click on any of those circles, you will get a skill in mathematics. The ones at the top are the most basic mathematics, like kindergarten math. So if you click there, you'll get 1 + 1. Once a student shows mastery in that, they'll go to the next level, which might be like 5 + 6, or basic subtraction. And as you show mastery in each of those skills, it keeps progressing you. And today there's 800 skills that go all the way to calculus and statistics. And on some level, this is common sense. This is the way that you would play a video game. In a video game, you keep working on level 1, and only once you've beaten level 1, you go to level 2. This is the way you would learn a martial art. You keep practicing your white belt skills, and only when you've mastered it, you become a yellow belt. But what we point out, this is not the way that a traditional academic model is structured. In a traditional academic model, we group students together, usually by age, and then around middle school age and perceived ability, and we move them together at a set pace. And what typically happens is, let's say we're in middle school, and the current subject is exponents. The teacher will give a lecture on exponents, we'll go home, do some homework, we might not be able to do it well, but then the next day we'll review, get another lecture, get some more homework, lecture, homework, lecture, homework. That continues for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then we have a test. And on that test, maybe I get 70%, you get 80%, you get 95%. And even though that test identified gaps, I didn't know 30% of the material. Even the A student, what was that 5%? Maybe it was a careless mistake, but maybe it was something important. What happens when you take something to the 0th power? Even though we identify those gaps, the whole class then has to move on to the next subject. And that next subject is going to build on those gaps. It might be negative exponents or logarithms. And this process continues through our entire academic career, where we keep having a gap here, a gap here, a gap there. And then all of a sudden you get to a class like algebra or calculus, and nothing makes sense. And it's not because algebra is difficult or because the student isn't bright. It's because they have so many gaps. The equation on the board has an exponent, it has a fraction, and they had gaps in those, and so they don't understand what's happening. And to realize how absurd this is on some level, imagine if we did other things in our life that way. Say, home building. So you bring in the contractor, and you say, we have 3 weeks to build the foundation, do what you can. So they do what they can. Maybe 3 weeks later, the inspector comes and says, okay, the concrete's still wet there, that part isn't really quite up to code, I'll give it a 70%. And you say, great, that's a C, let's build the first floor. Same thing. You have 2 weeks to build the first floor, do what you can. Maybe some of the supplies don't come, it rains, whatever. Inspector comes, it says 80%. Okay, let's build the second floor. And you keep building until at some point while you're building the third floor, the whole building collapses. And if your reaction is what we typically have in education, you say, oh, maybe you had a bad contractor, or maybe I should do more inspection. But the problem was the process. You are artificially constraining when and how long to do something, ensuring a variable outcome. You take the trouble of inspecting it, but then you ignore the deficiencies, and then you build on top of that. And so what we're advocating here, it's this idea, it's not my idea, it's a very old idea, probably the oldest idea of mastery-based learning. Instead of holding fixed when and how long you have to learn with variable outcome, A, B, C, D, F, do it the other way around. What should be variable is when and how long a student should have to learn the material, and what's fixed that they should all get to levels of mastery. And in all fairness, this wasn't really logistically possible until now with modern technology. Now, all of us at Khan Academy, my background, we're very quantitative, so we want to measure what impact we're having. So obviously we can see the students using us. I'm happy to talk more about some of the efficacy studies we've been running. But we started doing surveys at universities asking students, has Khan Academy had a meaningful impact on your education? And we were hoping in this first survey that maybe 5% would say that Khan Academy had a meaningful impact on their education. But when we did the survey at some local universities, at elite universities, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, we saw that 60% of students said that Khan Academy had a meaningful impact on their education. And what was even more exciting is of the students who were the first in their family to go to college, so neither parents went to college, and they're at places like Stanford, 64% of them said that Khan Academy had a meaningful impact on their education. And this is in the US. And they said things like, Khan Academy was the private tutor that my family couldn't afford. Or Khan Academy is the way that I had classes because I went to a school that didn't offer the more rigorous classes, and that's the only way that they were able to prepare for some of these rigorous universities. And so connected to the idea of universities, we were approached 2 years ago by the College Board. These are the creators of the SAT, and they said, the SAT is meant to be meritocratic, but for too long you had a test prep industry where middle class and upper middle class and affluent students can pay tutors to improve their SAT score, and we want to address this. will you be willing to work with us to create the world's best test prep that happens to be free? And we were super excited because that's exactly what our mission is about. And so we launched it this past year, and here's a little news story that came out.
Today is the last day students around the country will take the SAT in its current form. That's because starting in March, a new test with lots of changes will be there for high schoolers. Here's NBC's Ann Thompson.
I wanted to start my own business specializing in robotics.
I think I'd like to be a chemist.
The first hurdle to achieving those dreams, the SAT. Today is the last day students will be offered the test in its current form. The new SAT promises to be quite different. All high school students like Amelia Teneo and Minkailu Kanute now also have access to free online tutoring from the Khan Academy.
The software itself acts like a tutor. It shows you, hey, you should probably work on this.
Complete with points and badges.
And once you get to like the more advanced stuff, you get like really cool badges.
Sounds like a video game.
Yeah, exactly.
The revisions come in the wake of charges of bias against minority and economically disadvantaged students.
For too long, costly test preparation has been seen to give some kids advantages on this test and not others.
Tristan Fields helps Amelia and Min get ready at Kipp College Prep High in the Bronx.
I do think that the test does a better job of assessing whether or not a kid is ready for college in terms of the skills that they will need.
What's this question asking?
Students have been practicing for months with sample tests meant to mirror the new SAT exam beginning in March.
And how have you done on the mock SATs?
I have done well. By the time that I went to Mach 2, I boosted my scores by 200 points.
Building confidence along the way to achieve new possibilities in the future. For today, Ann Thompson, NBC News, the Bronx.
And it's been very exciting. This launched only about 9 months ago. We've already seen that 50%, and for those of you who don't know, the SAT is the main entrance exam for college in the United States. Already 50% of all American students are using Khan Academy to do free preparation. And what's exciting is we've already seen a 25% reduction in the number of students using paid test prep. So it's very promising for where this can go going forward. And to see the type of potential that is out there in the world, if we just allow people to tap into it, I'll show you this testimonial video that we got about a year ago.
So I actually dropped out of high school twice, both during my freshman year. And when I eventually came back, I was put in sort of lower level math and science classes because I was so behind. Then I discovered Khan Academy, and I was able to skip 2 years worth of math just through using the site. And I came into school, I took the exam with students who had been enrolled in the class all year, and I was actually able to get the highest or the second highest scores in the class. So for me, Khan Academy really changed the trajectory of my entire life, because without it, I don't think I ever really would have been inspired to learn and to love math and to love science. I ended up graduating as a valedictorian and going on to Princeton, where I'm now a computer science major, and I'm absolutely passionate about learning, about computers, about math, about science. And without Khan Academy, I don't think that these things would really matter to me the way that they do today.
So, there's a fun epilogue to that. When we found out he's a computer science major, we said, you know, we have internships. And he applied, and he was an incredible intern, and so we gave him a full-time offer. And so just recently, he's accepted. So he now works at Khan Academy, and so in our own way, we're solving our own labor problems. So everything I've talked about so far was where I started, which is in the United States and in English. But obviously, our mission is a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And these are all pictures of Khan Academy being used throughout the world. We have active translation projects in over 20 languages. And all of these are exciting stories, but probably the most exciting is the one in the top right. You know, I used to give speeches like this and say, who knows, maybe one day we'll be used in Mongolia, just imagining the furthest place on the planet. And then one day I get a testimonial video like Charlie, I get it from Mongolia. And it's the young woman on the top right, her name is Zaya. And like Charlie, she says how she enjoys Khan Academy, helped her learn. And then I assume she must be middle class. She had access to the internet. Her English was quite good. But then I looked at her email, and it turns out that there was a group of engineers who were going from where I live, from Silicon Valley to Mongolia, and setting up computer labs in orphanages. And what you see up there, those are the Mongolian orphan girls using Khan Academy, and Zaya was one of those orphans. And what was especially incredible about that is not only did she learn on Khan Academy, and this is very similar to Charlie's story, once she learned it, she is now one of our top creators of videos in the Mongolian language. So she is now able to teach other Mongolians, and this is someone who grew up in an orphanage. So these are some of the main portals of Khan Academy. As I mentioned, it's not just the videos are translated, the software, the teacher tools, it's all available, especially in Spanish, es.khanacademy.org, but in Brazilian Portuguese, we're doing Hindi, we're doing Arabic, French, we're doing all of the world's major languages. And to get a feel for at least what the videos look like in these other languages, I'll show you this montage.
Me comí 2 quartos de pizza.
L'hypoténuse commune, ok.
7, 13, 15.
और मैं इस हाथ से इस ब्लॉक को धकेलने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ इस डायरेक्शन में.
توجد قطعتين من معدن النحاس والزنك.
P R به توان 2 ضرب داره.
הגיעה הנקודה שבה שוק הסיום של הזווית חותכת את מעגל היחידה.
ili muweze kuelewa na kuweza.
Into kuqala kufuneka siyazi kukuba kubani
16 bölü 16 1'e eşittir.
Muitas e muitas outras coisas importantes.
Isaiah from Mongolia, your videos are so interesting and funny. Make more lessons.
So these are just more pictures of Khan Academy being used throughout the world. That first one you saw, that was at a Nova school that Carlos Rodriguez Pasteur started. And whenever we see things like this, and I point out, I point out to all of the stakeholders of Khan Academy, which is much, much more than me. As I mentioned, we're a team of over 100 people. We've had thousands of people help translate videos. People all over the world who are working with us. And I hope many of y'all will join us in this mission. I think we're in a special time in history, and to give some perspective, I like to give a thought experiment. If you were to go back 400 years to Western Europe, which even then was one of the more educated parts of the world, you would see that about 15–20% of the population could read, about 20% of men and 10% of women. And I suspect that if you ask someone who could read, say a member of the clergy, what percentage of the population do you think is even capable of reading? If you had a perfect education system, they might have said, if you have great education, maybe 40–50% might be able to read. Well, we know now, today, 400 years in the future, that would have been a wildly pessimistic prediction, that with proper investment, 100% of the population can read. But if I were to ask all of you a similar thought experiment, what percentage of the population is capable of learning genetics, or contributing to cancer research, or learning physics or calculus or starting a business? You might say, well, with a great education system, maybe 5, 10, 20, maybe 30% could learn genetics or statistics, or if you really invested. But what if that also is based on our blinders that we have, based on what we've seen? Based on this world where we see students being pushed ahead, and as they have gaps in their knowledge, we do nothing about them, so at some point they hit a wall. And those walls are the algebra class, the statistics class, the calculus class, the physics class. What if we're able to allow every student to learn at their own pace, fill in those gaps? Maybe, just maybe, then we can get it to a world where much closer to 40, 50, 60, maybe 80, 90, 100% are capable of learning this. And this isn't just a nice utopian fantasy. I actually think it's a necessity. We're transitioning. The need for literacy was based on the Industrial Revolution. We needed a basic form of education in order to work in the factories and whatever else. And the Industrial Revolution was a pyramid. You had a large physical labor force. In the middle, you had a bureaucratic class. And then at the top, you had the businessmen, the entrepreneurs, the researchers, the artists, the scientists. But we're quickly moving into a world where technology is collapsing the bottom. Robotics is going to collapse that bottom of the pyramid. And even the middle of the pyramid is going to collapse. That's what technology will do. So as a society, we have a question. We're going to have all of this productivity, that goes to the top of that pyramid. And we have two options. Either we'll have an unstable social structure, or we'll have to do some type of redistribution, or, which I like, I call this the Star Trek reality, we're able to invert the pyramid. We're able to bring most people into that creative class where they can contribute to research, contribute to art, be entrepreneurs. And if we do that, and I generally think it's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years, we have this chance of doing something that would be truly historic, and it's all of us together. It's not just Khan Academy, where we'll take this thing called education that's always been the key determinants between the haves and the have-nots, but it's always been scarce, and it's always been expensive, and we can make it a lot more like basic shelter or clean drinking water and just a fundamental human right. Thank you.
Señor Presidente, señores ministros, queridos amigos, empresarios, Salman, creo que lo que hemos visto aquí es una evidencia de que esto no funciona. Otro verde. Disculpen. Creo que lo que hemos visto es, ahora sí, una evidencia de que cuando algo no funciona, la iniciativa privada de gente brillante es capaz de producir soluciones que los estados nunca van a producir. Más bien los estados después aprenden de las iniciativas privadas aquello que es relevante para incorporarlo a su quehacer y difundirlo entre las partes. Y entonces es fundamental que haya un fuerte estímulo hacia la innovación, particularmente los privados, aunque también hay instituciones públicas que pueden hacerlo. La gran pregunta que nos hacía Mariana en la mañana es cómo hacemos para promover la innovación que nos ayude a salir de la caja, porque de alguna manera el siglo XXI implica salir de la caja. El siglo XX lo que hace es un profesor piensa de cierta manera, le impone su manera de pensar a los alumnos y a través de todo tipo de currículos y sistema de distribución del conocimiento y estándares y exámenes y notas y libretas y evaluaciones nacionales, internacionales y todas ellas, incluyendo las que postulan en Estados Unidos el SAT, el Achievement, etcétera, lo que quieren es lograr que todos los alumnos piensen como el profesor o como el libro, como el programa oficial, y a eso le ponen 20. Y se supone que ahí hay creatividad, que hay originalidad, que hay innovación, en fin, cuando lo que se ha hecho en el fondo es agarrar un currículo y a partir de un currículo único para todos, con todo tipo de apoyos y estímulos en los cuales, en el caso de Khan, por ejemplo, se hace un esfuerzo notable para ayudar a los estudiantes, se obtiene como resultado un sistema en el cual se procura que todos los alumnos exitosos sean igualitos y más bien los que piensan distintos sean desperdiciados. Es decir, un sistema que jerarquiza los ganadores, los perdedores, los que pueden, los que no pueden, y de alguna manera el reto es identificar cómo hacemos para que todos puedan. Estoy seguro que en esta sala hay muchos exitosos que hubieran estado en el lado izquierdo y están ausentes muchos que estuvieron en el lado derecho y no tuvieron éxito, porque no es lo mismo someterse al mandato de lo que plantean los profesores y los libros que desarrollar su inteligencia y su talento. Por supuesto, el sistema se preocupa de ponerles pruebas con preguntas prefabricadas, respuestas prefabricadas. El alumno lo que tiene que marcar, pero al alumno le interesa otra cosa. El alumno quiere saber, por ejemplo, por qué se gastan billones en mandar un cohete a Marte y no se resuelven los problemas de salud y educación. El alumno quiere saber por qué, si el alcohol hace más daño que la marihuana, no se legaliza la marihuana y sí se permite la legalización del alcohol. El alumno quiere saber por qué se hace cuando su reputación en Facebook es destruida por todos los sistemas de malos usos de las redes sociales. Esos son los temas que le interesaría a un alumno estudiar, discutir, debatir, resolver en la escuela, y no lo que les interesa el profesor. El alumno aprende cuando el alumno quiere, no cuando el profesor quiere. Y lo que hay que hacer es encender los motores internos de la motivación del alumno y no simplemente presentarle profesores brillantes que hacen clases de las cuales los alumnos muchas veces no aprenden mucho. Y entonces todo está prefabricado, no como los avioncitos que había que armar. Está todo designado, inclusive las guías de laboratorio de ciencias están hechas de tal manera que siempre los experimentos salen bien. Nunca se equivocan, nunca fallan, porque ya están todas las mediciones hechas para que siempre salgan bien. El alumno no explora, el alumno no investiga. Le piden al alumno que repita patrones y entonces la naranja es así. En cambio, cuando un alumno decide creativamente hacer su propia naranja, es descalificado. ¿Por qué? Demasiada creatividad. Él tiene que seguir el patrón establecido. Y entonces todo está programado, todo está prefabricado, todo está condicionado, y el buen alumno, todos los alumnos tienen que hacer lo que les dicen el profesor o lo que dicen los manuales o lo que dice el software. Cero creatividad, y en lugar de inspirarlos les amputan su inspiración, y en lugar de permitir que cada uno exprese como mejor le parece su sentir, su parecer, su inspiración, su creatividad, su manera de ver el mundo, su manera de reproducir lo que él evoca o lo que él piensa, lo condenan a ser un repetidor de los patrones preestablecidos. La educación personalizada del siglo XX es aquella en la que todos tienen que aprender lo mismo, aunque se les permita seguir rutas distintas. Acá, por ejemplo, todos tienen que saber cómo es el sistema digestivo de León. Entonces unos pueden ir por aquí, unos pueden ir por acá, unos pueden ir por acá, unos pueden ir por acá, pero todos tienen que aprender cómo come el león, cuando en realidad lo que se necesita es un sistema donde los alumnos son capaces de investigar el sistema digestivo de cualquier animal, el metaconcepto que está detrás. A unos les interesará el león, a otros les interesará el tiburón, a otros les interesará la vaca, a otros les interesará el águila o la pulga o lo que fuera, porque lo que interesa es entender la relación entre la alimentación y el sistema digestivo, y no que se aprendan específicamente cómo come un león. Eso es pensamiento divergente, que en estos tiempos es tan fundamental. Si el profesor valora el modelo a seguir, y entonces el alumno se va a limitar a repetir el modelo que le plantea el profesor. Pero ¿y quién va a hacer estas casas? O estas, o estas, o estas, cuando esas no siguen los patrones que se les enseñaron en la escuela, porque estos alumnos están saliéndose de la caja, estos alumnos están creando, están diseñando, están haciendo cosas nuevas. Y entonces un arquitecto valorado no es el que hace una casa así, sino el que hace una casa así. ¿Cómo hacemos para que el sistema educativo nos ayude a pensar fuera de la caja? Y ser un buen alumno en el siglo XX al final termina siendo un alumno que tiene que cercenar su pasión, cercenar su creatividad, porque tiene que someterse a todos los designios de la caja y tiene que renunciar a su pasión, a su entusiasmo para seguir las pautas que le plantea el profesor. Y ese es precisamente lo que los empresarios están diciendo que no les sirve. Los empresarios reclaman por todos lados que lo que quieren es que los alumnos tengan creatividad, que tengan iniciativa, que sepan innovar, que confronten, que arriesguen, que se entusiasmen, pero eso no lo permite el sistema educativo, porque precisamente lo que quiere el sistema educativo es que los alumnos desistan de eso y que se queden dentro de la caja. Y entonces ahí es donde se descubre que en la ruta de la educación tradicional se acabó. La educación inicial, la primaria, la secundaria, la universidad y un empleo estable, buenos ingresos, ese modelo se acabó. La realidad es otra. La realidad es hoy en día que los graduados no consiguen empleo, que el desempleo juvenil de los egresados profesionales es altísimo, que los profesionales no consiguen empleo porque los empresarios dicen no me sirven los profesionales como han sido formados en las universidades y los institutos, necesito otro tipo de gente, otro tipo de manera de pensar. Acá en el Perú las consultorías todo el tiempo detectan esta insatisfacción de los empresarios y por supuesto el mundo también empieza a encontrar fórmulas que pretenden disrumpir con los sistemas convencionales porque deciden finalmente que no responden los sistemas educativos, el sistema de empleo, el sistema de vida con las expectativas de la gente. La clave está en la innovación, en disrumpir, en atreverse a innovar, y eso es lo que están haciendo en Estados Unidos algunos colegios, es lo que están haciendo en Inglaterra, es lo que están haciendo en Dinamarca, es lo que están haciendo en Suecia, en Finlandia, en Australia, en España, en Indonesia, en Brasil, en Colombia. El Perú no tiene por qué seguir siendo un país que va a visitar a otros para ver qué cosa es lo que otros hacen. Llegó el momento en que el mundo se dé cuenta que también en el Perú hay cosas innovadoras, interesantes, y lo único que necesitamos es una activa promoción a la innovación a partir de normas, por supuesto, ministeriales que faciliten la innovación, que inspiren a los innovadores, que les abran el camino, que les den facilidades de tal manera que llegue un momento en que, así como tenemos un Gastón Acurio que puso a la gastronomía en el mapa mundial de la gastronomía, tengamos escuelas peruanas, institutos peruanos que pongan la educación peruana en el mapa mundial de la innovación educativa. Gracias.
Quiero agradecer a Salman. Primero que nada, tu historia es una de mis historias favoritas de entrepreneurship. Primero por tu presencia aquí en el CADE y segundo por esta historia que nos has contado que nos inspira muchísimo. La verdad que lo que yo encuentro muy inspirador de tu historia es que el formato es tremendamente sencillo. Una pizarra negra, dibujos en colores y una voz. Y en muchos casos tu propia voz. Y ese formato, que obviamente tiene todo un soporte tecnológico que ha costado tiempo desarrollar, definitivamente tiene resultados impresionantes y tiene elementos de esta educación del siglo XXI que todos estamos sabiendo que necesitamos. Gracias también a ti, León, por los pertinentes comentarios al tema. Tenemos muy poquito tiempo para hacer preguntas, así que voy de frente al grano. Empiezo contigo, Salman. Tu sueño es brindar educación de clase mundial a todo el mundo y de manera gratuita. Y la verdad es que los números que tú tienes son extraordinarios, el crecimiento ha sido asombroso y estás en varios idiomas y estás en el mundo. ¿Por qué no has contemplado que tu programa sea oficial? Es decir, ¿por qué no existe el Colegio Khan, la Universidad Khan, que forma alumnos de colegio y profesionales universitarios?
Well, we see ourselves working in conjunction with schools around the world. You know, what we've done with the SAT, I think, gives a clue of what we can do, where the SAT is made by official standards bodies. Every country has a series of standards, and then we can provide you could almost view it as a reference curriculum that every student can have access to. Ideally, they have access to that and a great classroom. But by this way, yeah, we think we can reach a lot. And what's exciting about this is, in the past, you had no way of knowing where the students are. If you're a minister of education or a superintendent of a district, you don't know what the students are working on. But for example, you know, at Inova schools, they can see where all 16,000 students are in real time. They can see which schools are getting more performance or which aren't. We're able to see, for example, the SAT, there's a test called the PSAT, which 80% of all American students take in 10th grade. And they can sync that PSAT score with Khan Academy now, and that acts as a diagnostic. So 80% of American students now can go to Khan Academy, and Khan Academy, the software, immediately knows what the student knows and doesn't know in reading and writing and in mathematics. And so it can immediately give them training on their weak points, fill in those gaps. And then they take the SAT in 2 years. And we can actually measure how every minute on Khan Academy results in more college readiness and in their performance on the SAT. So I see the future of, I would love to work with school districts, ministers of education, governments, where we can become part of the official pathway.
Bueno. Entiendo tu punto, porque finalmente estás viendo que el impacto social que puedes tener proveyendo Khan Academy al sistema educativo que ya existe tendría mucho más impacto que si tú te lanzas a competir con el sistema educativo con una educación, digamos, que se llame Khan Academy. Lo que he notado es que tu proyecto, tu propuesta, tiene todos los ingredientes de educación del siglo XXI. El alumno, la educación personalizada, donde el alumno avanza a su propio ritmo, alcanzando metas, y no dejando ningún gap en el camino, una educación que tiene automonitoreo, y además el profesor juega este rol de facilitador donde va viendo cómo estás y personaliza la ayuda que te tiene que dar, una educación que puede ocurrir en cualquier lugar del mundo y en cualquier momento. Tiene todos estos ingredientes. La verdad de las cosas es que esta es la educación del siglo XXI. Nos has dado un vistazo de lo que se puede lograr. Además, la evidencia de resultados es increíble. Pero la realidad es que en este planeta todavía la mayoría de los alumnos están en el otro sistema tradicional. Están sentados en una carpeta mirando a un profesor que les está transmitiendo conocimientos. Desde tu experiencia y que estás en esto, hay un momento en que esto se va a voltear, en que vamos a tener más educación del siglo XXI y la educación tradicional va a ser algo que vamos a ver, que no vamos a ver mucho. ¿Cuándo crees? ¿Tarde? ¿Temprano? ¿En cuánto tiempo crees tú que se va a voltear? ¿Dónde es el punto de inflexión?
Yeah, it's been, on some level it's been happening faster than I expected. You know, when I was in my closet, I didn't expect all of this to happen over the next 5, 6 years. But I think over the next, I would say 10 years, we'll see globally maybe 10, 15% of classrooms start to go in this direction. 10 or 15%. And right now in the U.S., you see pockets, some charter schools, some innovative. We actually started a lab school underneath our offices that uses Khan Academy, but then does a lot of the project-based learning, creative work that was just spoken about. I actually think there's an opportunity in countries like Peru to leapfrog what happens in places like the U.S., where because of there's students in very rural areas where they might not have access to a school, or they might not have, the school does not have someone who can teach algebra, who can teach physics. And so by using Khan Academy, these students will have access to this material. The state bodies and the government can see what's happening. And then if we can create a path for those students, like the SAT or other subject tests, where they can learn on Khan Academy and then they can prove what they know, and then based on that evidence, they can either get admission into college, or even better, if many of all of you said, yes, if you are able to prove A, B, and C, these examinations, we'll give you a job. And I think that would, and then you could work with us and other groups to see what are those skills that are most important, and they'll change over time. The 50 years, the skills will be different than today. But that's the dream. We're already starting to explore this of creating some type of a global credential that any student in the world could learn on Khan Academy, prove what they know, and that there's global employers who'd be willing to take it seriously.
Ok, eso, tengo que esperar. Eso tendría gran impacto. Y esto también destruye el mito, desde mi punto de vista, el mito de que una educación moderna con fuerte componente tecnológico, que ahora no es tan difícil de obtener, vas a ampliar las brechas entre los que más tienen y los que menos tienen. Cuando lo que te estoy escuchando decir es que de repente esta es una gran oportunidad con estos modelos innovadores, con la tecnología disponible, para cortar esas brechas. Y justamente hacer este salto cuantitativo, saltarnos toda una etapa e irnos de frente a la educación del siglo XXI en los lugares donde menos favorecidos están, como las zonas rurales, como lo has mencionado. Voy a hacer una pregunta a León. León, tú eres uno de los innovadores de Perú, ¿no? Y te has lanzado a hacer estas innovaciones con tu colegio. Por ahí que hay otros gestores educativos que están pensando hacer lo mismo. ¿Qué crees qué le podrías recomendar o aconsejar a estos gestores educativos que están dudando o están pensando en la posibilidad de lanzarse a ser innovadores? ¿Qué pueden esperar?
Yo les cuento una anécdota. Cuando me invitan a dar charlas estudiantes de pedagogía en la universidad, que están en el 7º, 8º ciclo, me dicen, ¿qué consejo nos das? Y entonces yo les digo, no estudien educación. Y le digo, ¿para qué estudian educación? No tienen certeza de trabajo, no tienen certeza de contrato, remuneraciones bajas, poco prestigio social, van a sufrir toda la vida viendo si los contratan o no, si los votan o no del colegio, tienen que actualizar. A los maestros les echan la culpa de todos los males de la sociedad, por supuesto, porque cada vez que hay un problema entre los adultos le piden a la escuela que lo arregle. Y entonces, ¿para qué van a estudiar educación? Búsquense otra cosa más interesante. Y entonces, claro, los alumnos al principio se quedan un poco chocados y entonces me repreguntan un poco, pero realmente no hay nada que sí sea interesante. Y entonces yo siempre les digo, solo aquel que está dispuesto a aceptar que la carrera de educación es una carrera cuesta arriba y que es una carrera de sacrificios, de inversión, necesita vocación, necesita pasión, necesita tolerancia a la frustración. Solo entonces quien realmente quiere ser maestro tiene un buen pronóstico para ser maestro. Y yo haría la analogía con la iniciativa de hacer colegios. Cuando uno quiere hacer un colegio, ustedes no se imaginan la infinidad de cosas que hay que hacer desde el punto de vista de las normas y los requerimientos del ministerio, del municipio, de la UGEL, los trámites, los tiempos, defensa civil. Casi está hecho todo como para decir no hagan colegios. Y yo todo el tiempo le he reclamado al Ministerio de Educación, a mis amigos del Ministerio, a las UGELes, deberían ustedes hacer un fast track, o sea, aquellos que han evidenciado tener la madurez y la capacidad de hacer cosas nuevas, hagan lo que sería la analogía al efecto Khan, es decir, permítanles crear innovación y después aprendan de ellos. Es un aprendizaje a costo cero, porque todo el riesgo lo asume el privado, todo el esfuerzo de innovación lo asume el privado y el Estado después aprende de ellos, lo incorpora, lo escala y hace lo que quiera. Y entonces esta vocación por innovar es una de las virtudes que hay que tener, pero a su vez uno de los grandes problemas que tenemos que enfrentar quienes queremos hacer una cosa innovadora. Afortunadamente, mis socias y yo, Marisol Bellatín, Fiorelle Ferrari y yo, compartimos una pasión, compartimos una visión y hemos decidido que vamos a sacar adelante un colegio que sea un referente mundial para la educación. De hecho, ya tenemos una cantidad de feedback de afuera, del extranjero, que quieren venir a ver el colegio para ver qué estamos haciendo. Y entonces a mí lo que me da pena es que en lugar de que en el Perú los peruanos nos miren y quieran aprender de nosotros, y lo mismo le pasa a Innova Schools, entonces más bien hay que estar todo el tiempo mirando qué hacen en el extranjero porque no somos capaces de mirar y creer que nosotros somos capaces de innovar. Y entonces mi recomendación para todos los que quieren innovar es, tienen que tener mucha paciencia, tienen que, invertir mucho esfuerzo, mucha convicción, pero tienen que tener sobre todo pasión y metas elevadas, porque hacer un colegio para hacer más de lo mismo o más de lo que hacen otros, ¿para qué voy a perder mi tiempo? Es decir, de lo que se trata es de hacer algo que sea sustancialmente distinto, no digo mejor ni peor, pero que recoja los saberes que hay hoy en día sobre pedagogía, sobre psicología y les plantea a la comunidad, miren, aquí hay una forma alternativa de educar y todos los que se quieran adherir a ella, bienvenidos.
Ojalá se lancen muchos, León. ¿Quieres comentar algo sobre eso, Salman? ¿Sobre lo que ha dicho León?
I agree. I'm not 100% familiar with all of the regulations in Peru, but I know even in the U.S., when we tried to start a school, I had a similar feeling of it feels like they're putting everything to prevent it. And I think, but that is the only way that things are going to change. One thing I tell the team at Khan Academy, Khan Academy online will be able to reach hundreds of millions of students, hopefully, in the next 5, 10, 15 years. But if what happens in the classroom stays the same as what was invented in Prussia 200 years ago, then it's only going to help so much. And so what we need to do is make sure that Khan Academy can be a catalyst for new modes of learning. And so the school we started, the Innova schools, I'm sure many of the schools that you're running, the idea is let students learn at their own pace and build all their core skills, and then most of the day can be freed for the collaboration, the creativity. We actually progress our students not based on their age, but their independence level. And independence is different than your academic. So there's so many interesting things that can happen if there's more freedom to experiment.
Okay, una última pregunta que nos queda. No he visto preguntas del público, así que me voy a lanzar con mi pregunta. Hay mucho temor de que la tecnología reemplace al maestro. Se está hablando de que los robots van a ser más inteligentes que los seres humanos y entonces vamos a tener el riesgo de... Y es cierto que el maestro juega un rol crítico, la tecnología es el enabler. ¿Quiénes son tus maestros en Khan Academy? ¿Qué perfil tienen? ¿De dónde vienen? ¿Son gente joven, gente mayor? ¿Puedes comentarnos eso, por favor?
So, you know, I think there's a difference between, some people might call me a teacher or some of the other people on Khan Academy a teacher, and in some ways we are, but I'm careful with that word, because we are creating explanations and giving, you know, and creating practice and all of that. And we associate that with teaching because in a traditional classroom, that's what many teachers do. They'll give a lecture about this or that. And so, you know, for that, we look for people who have good student empathy, who can remember what it was like to learn it the first time, who enjoy the subject. At Khan Academy, we say, you know, don't even press record to make that video unless you are very excited about that subject. Because if you're not excited about that subject, the listener is not going to get excited about that subject. So I won't make a video until I truly am passionate about whatever topic I'm about to do. We try to make sure, you know, imagine, when I make videos, I still imagine my 12-year-old cousin. She's 26 now, but I imagine her when she's 12 years old, that I'm talking to her. I think you need to speak with respect. A lot of times when you talk to a young child, people talk like this, and even a 5-year-old doesn't want to be talked to like a 5-year-old. They want to be talked to like an equal. And so you'll see, whether you're looking at kindergarten or college level on Khan Academy, the same tone, the tone I'm using with you is the same tone with all of the subject matter. What we look for, the classroom, this fear you're talking about, replacing teachers, I think it liberates the teacher. When teachers go into the profession, they want to form connections with students. They dream of being able to help that student escape from whatever conditions they are in. And that doesn't happen through lecturing. That happens through one-on-one connection. That happens through dialogue. And so what happens in this world is, if technology can give the lecture, if technology can give the practice and do the grading, then it frees the teacher for more one-on-one time. And so, you know, a lot of times in education there's debate on student to teacher ratio. We have a different metric, student to valuable time with the teacher ratio. And what we're seeing is when the teacher isn't lecturing anymore and spending 10, 20 minutes every day with every student, or every week with every student, all of a sudden they're spending much more time. I've sat in so many classes when I was a kid, the teacher didn't know who I was. But now the classes that are using more of this methodology, the teacher is able to form connections with every student. And the teachers find it more satisfying, the students find it more satisfying, and so the ironic thing is the technology is making the class more human, not less.
I agree. I agree, completely. En la educación del siglo XXI el profesor va a jugar un rol mucho más protagónico y se va a sentir mucho más satisfecho del rol que juega. Me toca solamente hacer un pequeño resumen de la sesión. Quiero dejarles con 3 ideas. La primera es que cada academia es un ejemplo de que ya esta transformación de la educación ya está dando en el mundo. Este es solo un ejemplo de cómo esta educación del siglo XXI está comenzando a erosionar la educación tradicional. El segundo punto es que el Perú sí tiene un atraso muy grande, tenemos harto camino que recorrer, pero lo bueno es que existe, y ahora hemos visto que ahora se están dando las condiciones y existe una oportunidad con tecnologías parecidas y con innovación de hacer saltos cuantitativos y cerrar esas brechas mucho más rápido siguiendo rutas alternativas. Por el mismo camino de antes no vamos a llegar a ninguna parte. Y finalmente, que es importante que en esto estemos todos juntos, que este es un trabajo articulado entre el sector privado y el sector público, que es importante establecer mayores niveles de confianza y vínculos de colaboración. Quiero, por favor, pedirles un fuerte aplauso para Salman y para León.
Muchísimas gracias a Salman Khan, ha sido realmente extraordinario. León Trahtemberg con una exposición vibrante. No se vayan, por favor. Vamos a tomaros una pequeña foto. Es importante, pues, para el recuerdo. León, no huyas. Mariana, muchísimas gracias por conducir la sesión. Realmente motivadora, disruptora, que es lo que ustedes proponen. Y no solo eso, sino que además nos deja con una situación muy particular para el inicio de la siguiente sesión.